On tap for today's Philadelphia 76ers, now by Chat Sports, I'm Chase Sr. We're on the eve of the NBA play-in tournament for Philadelphia as the Sixers host the Miami Heat. Some big-time injury news on both sidelines for Philadelphia and Miami. Terry Rozier going to be out for the Heat on Wednesday night. We're also going to break down our ideal 76ers playoff rotation. Embrace debate. Stay tuned for that. Which lineups do you like? Which lineups do you not like? I hope that you'll like us enough to join our watch party on Wednesday night because we're going live here on 76ers Now. Watch parties to come throughout hopefully what is a long Philadelphia 76ers playoff run. Our coverage begins on Wednesday night. Sixers Heat, Wells Fargo Center. Winner plays the New York Knicks. A Knicks team, by the way, that Joel Embiid is 16-3 against in his NBA career at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific. Cannot wait for it. Live play-by-play, audience interaction. The best place to experience 76ers game days outside of being at the actual game. Up first, injury updates for Philadelphia and Miami here. Good news for Philadelphia, bad news for the Heat. As for what Nick Nurse said about Joel Embiid, this is some of the positive news that we were talking about. Joel Embiid did everything at practice today. We saw him on Friday in that must-win a game against the Orlando Magic, did that Euro step, looked to tweak his knee, maybe his ankle, that's his bad leg, went out of the game, came back in, didn't really look the same, but it was good, and it was positive, I thought, that he finished that game out. He's currently listed as questionable, but he's expected to play. Why would he do everything at practice if he's not going to play on Wednesday? So I feel like Joel Embiid will be on the court, and we'll see number 21, the process, on Wednesday night. Cool news here for Embiid as well. He is going to play for Team USA this summer. So it's going to be awesome to see Joel Embiid partake in the Olympic Games alongside some legendary players. LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant. I think this is going to be the starting five right here, and then you have some of the younger players, the youthful generation, as part of the reserves. Kawhi Leonard just added to this team as well. For DeAnthony Melton, Daryl Morey was on the radio on Tuesday. He said, we're almost fully healthy outside of DeAnthony Melton. He did not practice again on Tuesday. He is officially listed as out for the play-in tournament game between the 7th-seeded Sixers and the 8th-seeded Miami Heat. Also of note for Philadelphia, Robert Covington out. KJ Martin going to be questionable. This is where things get interesting, though, when you think about this matchup. And we previewed the matchup the other day. Once the matchup was made official, Heat are going to try to muddy this game up. They're going to try to get physical. The Sixers can't fall into that trap. Stopping the Heat as far as their three-point shooting goes, going to be vital. Eric Spoelstra, best coach in the league. Playoff Jimmy Butler, you have to limit him. But Terry Rozier is able to really make a lot of things happen for that Heat offense. And due to his neck injury, he is not going to play against the 76ers. So you're looking at a player who can score from all three levels, who can create for himself, create for his teammates, pretty solid three-point shooter who has a history of having big games and making big shots against Philadelphia, both with Miami, with the Hornets, with the Boston Celtics. And his numbers this year after the Heat traded for him, after the fire sale for the Hornets, 16.5 points per game, 42+% from the deck, and then 37% from three-point range. Him being out just hurts what is a bottom third offense in the NBA. Looks as though Duncan Robinson, with the back injury, is going to be able to play. This is a player who, if he gets hot, he can light it up from downtown. A 40% shooter nearly from three-point range in 2023-2024 for Eric Spoelstra's club. Just a tick under 13 points per game, and then 45% from the field. He's added to his game a little bit, putting the ball on the deck a little bit more. And then Kevin Love, with his arm injury, seemed to be in a lot of pain when he got injured a couple of days ago. He, too, going to play against the Sixers. A playoff veteran who's played in a bevy of big games throughout his NBA career. Clearly on the downslope and on the back end of his career, but is important for what the Heat want to do. can rebound the basketball, gives you toughness. Those great outlet passes with touch and precision just always make you go ooh and ah. So what say you? Let's hear from you. Your scouting report here and kind of your prediction. The 76ers will beat the Heat if they do what? Let me know down in the comment section right now. Coming up next here on today's 76ers Now, our ideal 76ers playoff rotation. But this deal, thanks to our friends at Fanatics, is completely ideal because you can look good, you can rep the Sixers, and you can save money. Check, 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 check. This shirt was $60, now just $42. Use that link down below, chatsports.com/cityshirt. That link is hanging out down in the show notes and in the comment section of this video. So we put our Nick Nurse hats on, and we thought about what the Sixers playoff rotation could be. Now, of note, this will not include, as of right now, DeAnthony Melton or Robert Covington. Let's just approach the playoff run as if you're not going to have Melton, you're not going to have Covington, and definitely probably for the first round, if the Sixers get there, definitely for this play-in tournament, you're not going to have DeAnthony Melton anyway. So you first take a look at the entire roster for the Sixers. And this is a pretty solid team here. The likely starters, and Nick Nurse experimented with this lineup against the Orlando Magic, and I think it's going to be the same. Tyrese Maxey, Kyle Lowry as your backcourt, Kelly Oubre as your wing, Tobias Harris at the wing spot, but also playing the 4, and then Joel Embiid at the 5. I think this is the Sixers' second best starting 5. I'm tired of Tobias Harris. I can't wait until he's no longer a 76er. I would go with Nicholas Batum. Producer Chip, we did talk about this, that if the Sixers had more opportunities to play that grouping of 5 together, maybe they would play that starting 5 for a playoff push. But because they didn't have many opportunities to experiment with that because of injuries to Joel Embiid and the lack of availability and time, starting Tobias Harris probably makes the most sense.
Yeah, and look, I struggle with this, and I've seen the debates, bench Tobias, and look, I understand what we've seen from him, and the fit that Nic Batum as a player is next to Embiid, it is perfect, don't get me wrong. My issue here, and Chase alluded to this, and we talked about this, is I don't like the idea of Tobias has never come off the bench for the Sixers. He doesn't come off the bench. And all of a sudden, to start the playoff run, you're going to throw Tobias on the bench and tell him, come off the bench, leave the second unit. I think in a vacuum, that's a great idea. And I think he would excel in that role given time. I think if maybe the last 10 or so games of the regular season, even 5 games, if they were able to experiment with this, having Tobias come off the bench, that would be something I'd be interested in. But because it hasn't happened, they have no experience with it, I personally don't feel comfortable letting that happen. Like if I'm Nick Nurse, if I became Nick Nurse tomorrow morning, I would not bench Tobias. I would start him simply because I wouldn't feel comfortable enough making a change that drastic when the playoffs start without having seen what it could look like.
And what did Nick Nurse say when he was asked about Robert Covington's status? He said, now is not the time to experiment with our lineups and with our rotation. So there you go. So the playoff starters here, Tyrese Maxey, Kyle Lowry. You get the primary ball handler in Maxey, who can shake you down off the dribble, hit the step back, get to the cup, finish with creativity, 3-level scorer. Kyle Lowry can hit the 3. He can get to the cup with more so being shifty and just smart. He gives you that captain type of leadership, playoff savvy, still a solid defensive player. Kelly Oubre is your uber athletic wing. Uber Oubre. I kind of like how that has a ring to it. And he's really come on the last couple of weeks as an offensive player who can just do a little bit of everything for you. And the Sixers have missed having that athletic wing. And it's hard to imagine a Sixers team without Kelly Oubre next year, given his growth, his importance to this team, and how he's kind of found himself as a basketball player. Tobias Harris at the 4 is just going to need to show up and actually play well. And then Joel Embiid, let's just hope and pray Joel Embiid can stay healthy for this playoff push. You already missed so much time in the regular season. Now it's the time to stay healthy. So a small sample size here, Chip, but in 35 possessions together, this lineup outscored their opponents by 40 points per 100 possessions. It's a really good number.
It's been a very good lineup when they've been out there. And again, they haven't been out there much. But specifically when we look at the Heat, I love what Lowry can do against Jimmy Butler. He was tremendous against him last time they played.
Yeah.
Now, it's going to be playoff Jimmy. They're going to throw a lot of bodies at him, and that's why I like starting Oubre as well, because Oubre, I think, also has the tools to do a lot to Jimmy.
The twitch, too, yeah.
Even, Tobias can do some things. I want to make it clear, I love Nic Batum, and very well Nic Batum could be in your closing lineup. So it really all depends, because I understand how good Batum fits next to Embiid. And again, depending on certain situations, you can decide what you want to do based on the flow of the game. I trust Nick Nurse to do that. But this five specifically, I think it's going to be the five moving forward. They've shown success in limited time together, and I think it's what Nick Nurse should and will roll with.
Kelly Oubre. Let's go with some expanded thoughts on him. I like this. He is kind of the X factor because they're going to throw the kitchen sink at Joel Embiid. Tyrese Maxey has played very well against the Heat this year and at moments throughout his NBA career. He's averaging 27, 28 points per game this year against Miami. You're hoping that he's going to be able to be that co-star presence next to Joel Embiid. But then you start to look at that third option. Tobias Harris, to me, is not the third option. To me, the third option is Kelly Oubre Jr., who's kind of emerged in that role. He can attack the basket. He can hit threes, play good defense on Jimmy Butler, hopefully wear him down a little bit, just be bothersome. And if he does all of that, Embiid plays well, doesn't turn the ball over, Tyrese Maxey brings his A game, even a B-plus game, Sixers can win this game and blow it open.
Yeah, and Joel Embiid said it the other night, Oubre has been our third best player.
Nice.
And he really, really has. And just the tools he has, I think he's honestly better off the bounce attacking the rim than someone like Tobias. If he's hitting his threes, now that's the question with Oubre, 31% in the year.
But
he's been better recently, though. I believe he's at 35% over the last 10 games or so. So he's been better. If Oubre is aggressive, if he's hitting his threes, he has the capabilities on defense, he's the type of guy, that type of wing that, honestly, the Sixers have kind of been wanting Tobias Harris to be, someone that can really be athletic. I love his athleticism because the Sixers don't really have that athleticism. He fills a big need for the Sixers, and really, if he can elevate his game even one more step forward, especially with no Melton out there, man, he can be the X factor, and he can lead this team to a win or two. He really can.
Joel Embiid silently throwing shade at Tobias Harris. No, I don't really think so, but he's completely right. Oubre has been the third best player. As for the players coming in off the bench, you have the change of pace, backup point guard in campaign. Buddy Hield, he could have some big moments throughout this playoff run if the Sixers actually end up making the playoffs, where if he's hot, if he finds his stride as a three-point shooter, it's so valuable to have that floor spacer and that knockdown perimeter shooter from the outside. Nic Batum, just an excellent backup big for you who can play with Joel Embiid. And Paul Reed, who you told me a stat, which is just so interesting earlier today, led the NBA in reverse layups this year. He gives you that athletic, long type of big who better slotted at that 4 spot. As for Nic Batum, he's still going to play a big role, and he's played in huge games internationally on the international circuit. He's played in big games throughout his NBA career. His impact goes beyond the box score. Altering shots at the rim, blocking shots at the rim, playing high-level defense. He gives you size, the quick release from three-point range, allowing him to stretch the floor. Just a smart, heady basketball player. So while Tobias Harris is in that starting 5, I'm going to be interested to see what Nick Nurse does with the minutes there at that 4 spot. Toby struggles. Get Batum in the game because he can be complimentary next to Joel Embiid. Who should play more, Toby or Batum? What can the Sixers get from Buddy Hield? I hit briefly on that a little bit earlier, but in order for any team to make a championship run and make a deep run in the playoffs, in any major sport, in any sport in general, you're going to need contributions night in, night out from a bunch of different players. And in basketball specifically, you have that one player who's able to come in, catch fire, change the momentum of a game, get the crowd pumped up, silence the crowd, hit a couple of big threes. Buddy Hield, in his Sixers tenure, has been able to hit some big three-point shots. You think about some of the stuff that he's done in some clutch moments, he's really brought it. And the three-point numbers with the Sixers, not all that bad, 39%. But of late, those numbers have cooled down a little bit. And then another X factor here could be Ricky Council. The Sixers signing him to that 4-year contract. He gets that standard NBA deal. Pretty solid money for him. I think a good value play for the Sixers, because if he even ends up turning into a solid bench piece, when you know that they're going to pay a lot of money this upcoming offseason to Tyrese Maxey, maybe another star player if they want to retain Kelly Oubre Jr., they're not going to have a lot of money toward the back end of the bench that could be utilized for Ricky Council. And now that he's eligible for the playoffs, athletic player who is not going to be scared of the moment, even given his experience. Before we leave, let's hear from you. Drop your ideal starting five down in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Sixers, Heat, play-in tournament, Philadelphia 76ers. Please don't break our hearts.